Black August. Have you ever heard of it?
They will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
While many of y'all who are about that social justice life might say yes, I'd argue that plenty more folks have no clue what I'm talking about. Today's baggage, the activism of Black August. It's summertime, and to some this might mean beach days and barbecues, but to others, August is a month of remembrance. Black August began in the 1970s to honor the life and legacy of incarcerated Black revolutionary George Jackson, who was killed during a rebellion in the San Quentin Correctional Facility, his brother, Jonathan Jackson, and other activists who advocated for prisoners' rights, giving way to the rise of the prison abolition movement. And while Black August is observed in social justice circles, its message of Black power, resistance, and activism is critical to our existence in this country and should be more widely celebrated. But miss me with the whitewashing. So, why August, you say? Let's take a look at the month throughout history. The year 1619 is tremendously significant to African Americans because it's when the first enslaved Africans arrived in America. The date was August 20th, 1619, to be exact. Over a century later, there was the Haitian Revolution. On August 14, 1791, Toussaint Louverture led an army of enslaved people, which ultimately resulted in Haiti becoming the first Black republic in the world. Then there was Nat Turner's Rebellion, which popped off in August 1831. Overseas, Britain's Slavery Abolition Act, which abolished slavery in most of its colonies, took effect on August 1st, 1834. But the legislation was first passed on August 28th, 1833. Which brings us to another monumental date in Black history. Ava DuVernay highlighted August 28th in a film for the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture back in 2016. August 28th is significant because it's the date of Emmett Till's murder in 1955, MLK's I Have a Dream speech and the March on Washington, which took place in 1963, and Hurricane Katrina became a Category 5 storm and hit land in 2005. And in 2008, Barack Obama became the first African American presidential nominee.
I accept your nomination for presidency of the United States.
Many prominent Black figures like Henrietta Lacks, Marcus Garvey, and Chairman Fred Hampton were born in August, and many of them died in this month too. And now back to the origins of Black August.
Freedom fighters, resistance organizations, Black liberation organizations have really been taking the month of August, not just to honor the memory of George Jackson's life, but really to challenge the multiple systems that killed him. The systems that continue to criminalize Black bodies, the systems that continue to imprison and enslave us, the systems that continue to render our communities unhealthy and over-policed.
Brittany Packnett Cunningham is an activist, educator, writer, and host of the podcast Undistracted.
And just like Juneteenth, Black August is something that is coming more and more into the American consciousness. I don't get mad at Black folks when they don't know about Black August. There is an investment by the powers that be who would much rather maintain white supremacy culture and dominant culture status quo. And that is much more easily done when Black folks don't understand what we are capable of and can't see the evidence of how we've been freeing ourselves for generations.
Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, it's important to note that Black August is not Black History Month. After all, Black History Month was started by Carter G. Woodson and was initially Negro History Week. Its aim was to promote the study of African Americans and their contributions to this nation. Packnett Cunningham says that both Black August and Black History Month are distinct but critical.
Black August challenges us to look at the systems that rendered Black people silent in the first place. Black August really pushes us to say there is a reason why we have to create these distinctive moments and distinctive opportunities for us to shine the light on ourselves and each other. So how do we not only shine the light during a Black History Month, but how do we challenge the systems that silence us during a Black August?
And many of the ideologies that shape radical Black thought that were critical to Black August were conceived by Black women. Like Angela Davis, the revered political activist who aided George Jackson's escape attempt. Or Assata Shakur. And Audre Lorde, who Packnett Cunningham reminds us has said that self-care is an act of political warfare.
And when Audre Lorde says things like that in her poetry, in her writing, in her oration, it helps us remove the stigma of whole Black personhood, right? That I am here to find joy just as much as I am here to engage in struggle. That we engage in struggle because it is necessary, not because it is inherent to who we are. That we are deserving of full lives and we are deserving of preserved lives. And because those lives are Black lives, that they stand up against the status quo that is indeed, that makes all of us a political revolution. We've got filmmakers, we've got photographers, we've got folks who challenge the very notion of what it means to be Black, even for Black people. And that's the provocative thing that we cannot forget about Black August.
Audre Lorde was a Black queer woman and an activist. She, along with revolutionaries like Marsha P. Johnson, shaped our understanding of Black liberation, as did James Baldwin and Bayard Rustin. Today, many would argue that Black liberation has become more inclusive.
So liberation isn't about just being liberated from whiteness and white supremacy. It's about being liberated to live in your full and complete truth without the gaze of anyone.
Danielle Moodie is a Black queer woman who is also the host of the Woke AF Daily podcast. She says that the idea of Black liberation has shifted.
When I think of Black liberation now, I think about the liberation of Black trans women. I think about the inclusivity in which we use the term Black, right? And we think about liberation and what safety looks like. Because then it was trying to just be safe from the police, to be safe, in our homes. When I think about safety now, right? I mean, to be safe in my skin, to be safe in my body, to be safe how I show up. And as a Black queer woman, for me, that means the ability to show up as my full and complete self.
While both Moodie and Brittany Packnett Cunningham believe that Black August should gain more awareness beyond social justice circles, they also caution against the observance becoming too mainstream or whitewashed.
It's so difficult to maintain integrity of these movements and these experiences, because anytime that things become mainstream, right? Like Juneteenth is now going to be a federal holiday, right? But at the same time that you want to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, you also don't want people to understand the context in which Juneteenth became a day of recognition in the first goddamn place.
In the centuries since the first Africans were brought to America, we've had to fight for our liberation every step of the way. And today, in the 2020s, we still fight for our full and uninhibited liberation, which includes voting rights, access to health care, and education, among other issues. But is Black liberation an ideology that is at the very core of Black August an achievable goal?
I have to believe Black liberation is an achievable goal. That kind of critical hope is what helps you keep going when it's difficult. I have to believe that Harriet Tubman felt like Black liberation was an achievable goal. I have to believe that Fannie Lou Hamer believed that Black liberation was a goal. I have to believe that Ida B. Wells knew that Black liberation was possible. And so if they can believe that, then I can most certainly believe that. It's hope that looks at the evidence of Black freedom fighters throughout generations who have made us more free today than we were yesterday. And that evidence, that data lets me know that it is possible.
Indeed, Black liberation is still the end goal. And that means working and fighting for a future when all Black lives matter. While Black August dwells in social justice circles and is very much preserved by activists, it is imperative that we amplify the message of Black power and keep the revolutionary flame burning, now and forever. What's up, y'all? This is Felice Leon, host and video producer at The Root. This will be the very last episode of Unpack That. We wanted to thank you for your likes, for your shares, for subscribing. So thank you again, and until next time.